The rolling hills of upstate New York, Watkins Glen plays home to round 3 of the Talk Freak Racing Touring Car Championship. Just over 48 hours since Marcus Ambrose, former V8 driver, won his second NASCAR race in a row at the famous North American racetrack. Will Vincent all by himself today with Yoni Backman here at Glacier TV. We are going to be racing out of course for 40 minutes here today, and you are watching a little bit of the qualifying session as you often see here after we come on air, and we are currently looking at the V8 Ford Falcons, who are on their last 4 minutes of qualifying. So have a look at Renz Brokeman, the number 84 machine, on car with him at the moment. He once again is setting the V8 class. 1 minute 48.916 is currently coming through turn number 7. This is a tricky part of the racetrack. You've got to brake just before the track stops decompressing. Give yourself a nice tight entry. Don't be too hard on the power as you come out of it. But Brokeman, of course, is leading the way. He's had some very close fights with Thomas Van Boosel this season, but he is still unbeaten. 14 out of 14 in TFR TCC. And today, Van Boosel is a second almost behind. And there's still possibly a little bit more to come from Brokeman in that number 84 machine as he comes past the stripe. Make that now 1.2 seconds. Brokeman, as always, is on fire. We will run through your grid in a couple of moments' time. I can inform you that 13 of the Cadillac drivers have qualified for this race, being led by Frederick Follestad in the number 15 machine. Follestad with a time of 1 minute 44.777. I'm sure he's done a time already this season with 0.777. We'll get you that and updated to you. Darren Seal currently sat in second. In fact, that is confirmed with Marcel Mayer in third, Terry Dalberg in fourth, Tibor Sandor in fifth. However, as I said, we'll run through that in a couple of minutes' time as these drivers come to the grid. We've got some big names, some big battles coming into this race. Of course, Darren Seal is on a charge at the moment in that number 37 machine. Ever since about Silverstone last season, he has made a huge name for himself. Has had the number 9 machine in Marcel Mayo, who we really do expect a huge battle for the top 4 or 5 places here in this race here today. Follestad does look as though this is one of his favourite tracks because he is currently 8/10 of a second faster than anyone else in that Caddy field. And although we did see a moment when Folly did actually, lose it at Barber last week. So something to keep an eye on this season. We're going to quickly go on board, I think, one more time with Brokeman. The checkered flag is out. So drivers who are on the racetrack will be able to complete their lap. Having a look through, you'll see Andrew Streetley. He is coming up now towards turn number 9. You see there, he'll just take that left hander. So he's only got a couple corners left to go. Streetley is currently the slowest driver in the field, so he's really got to get it done in the next couple of corners. And it's just been reminded to me that last year, Frederick Follestad had a huge moment at the start of the race, and you know what, the entire field was eliminated coming up the hill into turn 2. One of the craziest moments we have seen in the Talk Freak Racing Touring Car Championship. And I remember the commentary there by Rob and Dave, which was pretty much speechless. And Andrew Streetley does not improve on that qualifying time, so he will start from the rear in that number 41 machine. We are now going to go through your grid, starting with the Cadillac drivers. Frederick Follestad, Darren Seal, they will line up on row number 1. We talked about the 8/10 of a second gap between those two drivers. Marcel Mayo, Tara Dalberg, they'll line up in row number 2, 3rd and 4th positions respectively. Tibor Sandor and Adam Taylor will line up in row number 3, with Mika Lipkri and Nico Brandt lining up in row number 4. Stefan Coppens, Adam Parr will line up in row number 5. And then in row number 6, it is Tom Cabral in the Cadillac. And then Renz Brokeman, the first of the V8 drivers, lining up in the 12th spot. Douglas Wyatt in the number 43 machine will line up in the 13th position. And then from here on in, it is pretty much going to be V8 drivers. Thomas Van Boosel in the 14th position. Igor Sandfield will line up in 15th. Jacob Cooper and Peter Ridley will line up 16th and 17th. Andy Goodison in 18th. Simon Hill and Duncan Moraes will line up in row number 10. Carl McGurk and Danny Bell's lining up in row 11. Remy Pinsky and Andrew Streetley in the 12th row. We had one driver who did not qualify, and that is Stephen Van Helsingen, who will not be taking any part in this race here today. And then this Watkins Glen International Racetrack. We are running today the classic boot layout. So for all of you racing enthusiasts who do know, we'll let you know so you don't know what that is. The classic boot layout is the one that does not involve the chicane, previously used for many Grand Prix up until the mid to late 1970s, and it is a very, very fast first portion of the lap. You'll take turn number 1 using as much of the curb and runoff area as you possibly can, and then after that you will see the drivers going up the hill. You've got to be a little bit careful in these cars. The Win cars can do this pretty much flat out all the way around, but these drivers have to be a little bit careful as they make that journey up the hill. They'll first go right and then left, then right again. It's actually that left-hander which is the most difficult, just as the car wants to bottom out a little bit, and you want to make sure you get a perfect line, then onto the long back straightaway. That will lead into the carousel. We'll talk you through that in a moment once we get there. You do see the pace car is leading the drivers now on the parade lap. For those of you who haven't been paying too much attention or missed out at Barber last week, we have rolling starts for the Torquay Racing Touring Car Championship. One of 2 changes, the second being the fact that the races have been elongated by 10 minutes, of course with the exception of the final race of the season at Daytona, which will be 1 hour and a half. And the field now coming up the hill, you'll see they can go too wide here in these cars, especially as they're not narrower than some of the others you've seen, for example the Corvette, the Ford GT, which were commonplace in the Super Cup, cars like the HPD as well. So they can run too wide here, but you need to be very careful to go up that left-hander, that you can get a good run through the right-hander without, of course, coming up too much speed and rushing up wide, because these guardrails are very, very close to the racetrack. And as we saw last season, one mistake by a driver coming up the hill and they will literally cause a huge backup. Then they'll come down the back straightaway. This is where the cars will be going pretty much the fastest you see all race long. Even with the chicane, they hit their top speed coming down into that big braking zone. They won't need to do that here, but as I'll come down into the carousel, this is where the drivers will really need to pay attention. It's a fast right-hander, about 180 degrees, and it just goes off camber downhill through the apex of the corner. You see there where they have the cup layout. That's what they used in the NASCAR races previous weekend, but this now comes onto the boot part of the track, affectionately called because it does pretty much resemble a boot. Now make that left-hand turn, one of the most difficult corners in motorsport, but you don't know it until you get there. And then they'll come through this about second, third gear. They'll come up the gears once more, short straightaway before this, we toe the 180 degree right-hander corner. That is so easy but so difficult all at the same time. Many lines available through here. If you get yourself though onto that strip, you want to stay there. You don't want to change tarmac, you don't want to change surface as you run through the corner, otherwise that car can get very, very loose. Another short straightaway now down before they go into what is known as the heel corner. This corner you want to get good momentum for here before you come into turn number 9 and you rejoin the old portion of the racetrack. And don't forget, Glacier TV will be with you every other week in the Torquay Racing Touring Car Championship from this week. You can get in touch with us on Twitter. Use the hashtag TFR. Field now coming through turn number 9. You've got yourself Frederick Follestad, Darren Seal, Marseille Mayo, Tara Delberg, Tiba Sandor, your top 5 in the Cadillac class. It's Renz Brokerman, Thomas Van Boosel, Eagle Sandfield, Jacob Cooper and Peter Ridley, your top 5 drivers in the V8 class. Last season, this race had an absolutely explosive start. With the rolling starts, it's going to be even more interesting. The pace car makes that turn down towards pit road once again. It's going to be Frederick Follestad controlling the pace, and that number 15 machine will bring the field to the green flag, and we are racing here and already 3 wide almost at Watkins Glen. And you see there, Folly gets himself a good start in the number 15 machine, turn number 1. This is where it all went wrong last year. Drivers spinning already 3 wide, and there's a big crash there in turn number 1. You got yourself at least one car spun around, and I believe that is Mika Lickery there in the number 69 car. He is out of the race. I think he might just need to get going. The entire field, however, has gone past him as these drivers are now making their way up the hill. It looks as though mercifully only one driver really was involved in that there. A couple of drivers getting a little bit of toing and throwing action, but for the time being, everyone else has been able to get going okay. But Mika Lickery's day really is done as he's lost it again coming up the hill. And the number 69 machine there, the Club Vinland driver, he is out of the race. I tell you what, we've got ourselves a very, very interesting battle up front. And we've got Douglas Wyatt there in the number 43 machine, very slow on the inside curve. He had himself a great start by the look of it. Having a look to see where he was on track, I believe actually, he'd got himself past Nico Brandt and Raymond Pilski, but he's now dropped back. Meanwhile, Danny Bowles in the number 91 machine, he is one of the V8 drivers. He's having a great battle in the middle of the field at the moment. They're pretty much 2 wide, all of them going through turn number 8, trying to sort themselves out. But it is Adam Cole trying to get through some of these drivers at the same time. Rens Brokeman, however, still leading the way in the V8 field. And it is Frederick Follestad, the number 15 machine, who is again leading the way in the Cadillac field. It is going to be Frederick Follestad from... I'm going to get the timing up. Frederick Follestad from Marseille and Mayo, who's moved himself up into second. Darren Seal in third, Terry Dalberg in fourth, and Tibor Sandor is your 5th place driver. But Rens Brokeman and Bushel are up to 7th and 8th overall. So a great start there by a couple of these V8 drivers as they're coming up the hill once again. We've got ourselves already a very close battle between Darren Seal, who's currently sat in 3rd position. Terry Dalberg looking down to the inside as they come down into the carousel, turn number 5, that long right-handed corner. Terry Dalberg's also got Tibor Sandor right behind him, with Stefan Coppins just sat back there, as we see him do so often this season, about 4 toes behind. And it looks as though that there's someone out of the pass, a big... I have to get a replay of that. And it looks as though that there is someone else out of the race. We'll try and get you information on that momentarily. But Douglas Weir in the number 43 machine is also out of the race, as is Nico Brandt. Nico Brandt is sat down on pit road for the time being. Nico Brandt's woes continue. He's having himself a horrible season for the time being. Raymond Pinsky is also pretty slow at the moment in that number 56 machine. But I believe it's Andy Goodison in number 25 who's had himself a huge crash, because that car is bent in all forms and shapes, and it is up at the top of the hill, turn number 4 and 5. It just looks like that car just smashed it. Yeah, it got himself a little bit wide coming up the hill, turn number 4 as you mentioned, just scraped the guardrail, and then that car just slid and got T-boned there by 2 drivers. I believe that was Andrew Streetley, one other driver as well, and that's a big crash there as they came off the hill. It is, however, Frederick Follestad in the number 15 machine, still your race leader, with Marseille Mayor already 2.6 seconds behind. Darren Seal is your 3rd place driver, and Seal looks as though he's trying to pull away from Terry Dalberg in 4th. Tibor Sandor is in 5th, and Stefan Coppins running out your top 6. In the V8 field, Rens Brokeman has got Thomas Van Boosel right there, hounding him, less than a second behind in that 2nd position. When you consider the fact that Brokeman was a full 1.2 seconds ahead, qualifying is a sterling effort by that number 12 machine, with Igor Sandfield in 3rd position in class. In fact, no, sorry, take that back. Jacob Cooper has overtaken the number 86 machine, so the Sandfield is now back into the 4th position. Simon Hill is sat in 5th, with Peter Ridley a further about 4 or 5 car lengths behind, starting to settle down now. One of the big things that you notice is that Adam Parle has been trying to get his way around a couple of these V8 drivers. Now, Parle, I believe, started this race on pit road. In fact, no, sorry, I take that back. Parle started this race in 10th, but he might be one of these drivers involved in that incident on lap number 1. We'll try and get ourselves a check back up on that one. But Adam Parle, he went all the way back behind a couple of these V8 drivers, got freight train, and what that meant is he's now having to try and get around both Thomas Van Boekel and Renz Broekman, the two fastest of the V8 drivers. In fact, he has now managed to complete those passes, but Parr is being held up dramatically here today, as we're having a look on board in the number 37 machine of Darren Seal, currently sat in third position, but with the huge train still behind him. And sorry, Thomas Van Boekel in the number 12 machine, we're looking at him now. He is still there with Renz Broekman. The gap between those two drivers was 9.5 tenths of a second as they came past the line. And Van Boekel really has been able to stay stuck through Renz Broekman. And one thing you'll notice, until Adam Parr in that number 38 machine kind of gets about a second, 2 seconds clear, it's going to be difficult for Broekman to keep his momentum because he can't really go as flat out as he's normally been able to do so, for the simple fact that he doesn't want to outbrake himself and run into the rear of that number 38 machine. So already we are almost 10 minutes into this, the third round of the Talk Creek Racing Touring Car Championship here on Glacier TV. It looks as though it's still the same situation we expect to see quite often. Follestad in the number 15 machine leading the way in the Cadillac class, and Renz Broekman leading the way in the V8. We have, however, got ourselves some very interesting battles still. Darren Seal in third position. In fact, now it's Marseille Mayo who's been caught by Darren Seal. So everywhere from second place, Marseille Mayo in the number 9 car, all the way back to Thibaut Sandor in the number 5 machine, sat in the 5th position. They are separated by less than 2 seconds on the racetrack. So that is Mayo, Seal, Dalberg and Sandor all traversing at pretty much the same speed, and you can overtake it. It's going to take a bold move down to somewhere like turn number 1, or alternatively you can have an attempt down into the carousel, but you've got to be very, very careful to set that up all the way from the start of the lap. And you see Dalberg looks though he's not as fast on these straightaways. It looks like he loses a little bit there. You'll notice as soon as they come up the hill around the carousel, that boot section of the racetrack, he is clearly faster than the number 9 car of Marseille Mayo. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on him. And just moving quickly to the V8 drivers, we'll stay with the Cadillac drivers for the time being. Tom Cable, who started this race towards the rear of the field, he had an issue at the start of the race. He is working his way back through the field. He is, of course, just getting to the side of one of these V8 drivers. That is Simon Hill in the number 46 machine. Literally cleared him moved across straight away. But Cable in that number 65 car is on the charge at the moment. He's 28 seconds behind the race leader. However, he is closing up Adam Parr in the number 38 machine as he's trying to gain some lost ground here in this race. But what you saw there is that he managed to get his way past the V8 of Simon Hill into the S's, but then he couldn't keep that momentum down the back straightaway. And this is one of the things that might start frustrating some of the Cadillac drivers through this race, because the V8 drivers simply are faster in a straight line, and that means they can repass back down that straightaway, as we've seen quite often in multi-class racing here at Watkins Glen. And I'll tell you what though, Marseille Mayo and Darren Seal are starting to pull away from their competition just a little bit. We're seeing some great battles between that number 9, Marseille Mayo, who has had himself a great season driving Club Scandinavia. He is sat in the 2nd position at the moment. Darren Seal is sat in the 3rd position in the number 37 machine. Those two have really, really been fighting hammer and tongue. And even though Follestad has been on rapid form again, they know that they can actually force Follestad into a slip-up now, and they both know that the driver that can get out at front still has half a shot of winning any one of these races if Follestad does make it in one of his slip-ups. Tower Dalberg looks like he's struggling to hold on for the time being in 4th position in the number 13 machine, but he can keep up with Darren Seal through the fast bits, which just loses a little bit in the twisties, going a little bit wide there into the carousel, but you can take more than one line into that corner, which gives you different running opportunities down into turn number 6 that I talked about at the start of the broadcast. One of the most difficult corners in all of American road racing, just no one knows it until they get up into that corner, but Thibaut Sandor really has started to fall back now. Having a look at Peter Ridley in the number 22 machine, working on Simon Hill. This is the battle for, I believe it is 5th and 6th position in class, in the V8 class at the moment. And Peter Ridley's last lap was a 1 minute 52.564. Compare that to Simon Hill, which was a full 2 seconds slower almost. So Simon Hill has had himself a very bad last lap, and that's put him back into the clutches of his Infinity Esports teammate Peter Ridley as they are coming through the toe corner once again. And Simon Hill getting very loose on exit, but it looks like he had just enough left in the tank there to avoid Ridley from coming down the inside now, down into turn number 8. And in fact, he goes wide a little bit again. It's going to be very difficult to work on the outside line into turn number 9. Always so dangerous to do that, but it looks as though Simon Hill is struggling for the time being into the middle stages of this race. They've also got Duncan Marias in the number 3 car, who's only about a second and a half behind, so one little slip up from these drivers as they continue to race, and they will perhaps lose themselves 2 positions. And in fact, Ridley, they're going around the outside, and that is Simon Hill coming down pit road there in the number 46 machine. He's obviously not happy with his tyres, so he's making that journey down towards pit road. Have a look to see if there's any damage still to that race car. It looks fine from every angle that I can see, but Simon Hill is on pit road, as is a couple of other drivers for the time being, and I think that is Rens Broekman also coming out of pit road now. So Broekman is in and out of pit road. He will lose first position for the time being. Thomas Van Boosel, Douglas Wyatt in the number 43 car, he's still on pit road. Simon Hill now coming out of pit road himself, so he's going to drop back behind Carl McGurk, Kramer Pilsky, and Andrew Streetley. To give you an update of where Rens Broekman is, he looks like he's feeded up into 9th position. So it looks as though that a couple of drivers have already made their pit stops here today. These 40-minute races means that a lot of these drivers do have to make a splash and dash there. Marche Mayo, however, he's lost himself a ton of positions off camera. We're going to get an update on that in the number 19, in the number 9 machine. Mayo is now 9 seconds behind the race leader with just a dreadful lap a couple ones ago. We'll keep an update to see what happened. It was actually down in the penultimate corner. It looks like it was turn number 10, came through the apex. Lap number 6 was end of lap, just bumped that car 90 degrees, and he just scraped the wall. Wasn't too bad a scrape, just on this left front. He just got the bodywork just tied into it a little bit, and it looks like he could keep on going. In fact, I take that back, that was down at turn number 9, but Mayo, we're having a look at the replay, just got that car a little bit loose there, and it's one of the things that can so easily happen at this racetrack. Coming up the hill, if you just brake a little bit too late, the car starts to step out on you. You don't notice it till the last second, and Mayo was very, very lucky there to avoid not only careening into the barriers, but also taking out another driver as well. He's now trying to close down Tico Sandor, who is sat in the 4th position now, who is currently 8 seconds behind the race lead. In front of them, Darren Seal and Terry Dalberg are battling for position. Darren Seal looking down to the inside, not going to make that pass happen. Perhaps he can try and do the cutover though. Down into turn number 9, looking down to the inside, not quite close enough. And I think that he just was able to get there. But Darren Seal is still in that 3rd position. Terry Dalberg, pretty much out of nowhere, as I said earlier on, which is sat waiting for these drivers to make a mistake, and he's now sat prettily in that 2nd position, and Darren Seal is struggling for the time being to try and find a way past. So it is now Frederick Follestad, your race leader in the Caddy class, who's led from lap number 1. Terry Dalberg in 2nd in the Caddy class, Darren Seal in 3rd, Dubisano in 4th, Marseille Mayo in 5th. In the V8 class, it is currently Thomas Van Boosel leading the way in the V8 class. Having a look to see when he's looking to come down pit road. He is coming out of the ultimate corner now. We'll see whether he makes that journey down towards pit road this time by. And it looks like he considered it, because that car got a little bit loose down corner X. It looks like he's trying to get himself down to below that yellow line even. He stays out for another lap, but Thomas Van Boosel is leading the way in the V8 class, with Jacob Cooper sat in the 2nd position, Ingle Senfield in the 3rd spot, Peter Ridley is in 4th. Duncan Marius is in 5th. Rens Brokerman, and to give you an update on him, he is in the 7th position, but has already made a pit stop, currently 1.8 seconds behind the overall race leader, and is currently about 27 seconds behind Thomas Van Boessel, and that gap is the one that we need to keep an eye on. And in fact, that last lap alone, Brokerman looks as though he lost a good couple of seconds there to Thomas Van Boessel. Just having a look through the rest of the field, things are starting to spread out, and in the V8 class especially, what you'll see is that, it's Simon Hill just going down the inside of Andrew Streetley. That is a past 4 position, so Simon Hill was able to get around, but Andrew Streetley's had himself a very, very tough day here today in that number 41 machine, being off the pace, always long. He's just trying to get that car home. He's looking on board with Thomas Van Boessel, working his way around some of the Cadillac truck. No, in fact, that's Thomas Cable, number 65 again. So they're renewing their battle. And this is not what Van Boessel wants at all. Because if he's going to be stuck behind that Cadillac driver, he is going to have Rens Brokerman closing the gap all the time between Brokerman's pit stop and pit stop that Van Boessel will have to make later on. So Van Boessel is going to have to really try and find a way past that Cadillac driver, the number 65 machine of Tom Cable, if at all possible. But you notice that you have to be so close to the rear of them coming through the S's just to have the opportunity to try and breeze past down into turn number 5, the carousel. But Van Boessel is still leading the way. We'll keep an eye on the gap between those two drivers, because it looks as though Brokerman is just closing in a little bit for the time being. So having a look on board with Darren Seal in the Cadillac field for the time being. We're going to pop over to him momentarily, but it does look as though we'll keep an update on the times. Van Boessel was 48 seconds behind the race. It's close between those two drivers, not really giving or taking anything for the time being, but Darren Seal is still pounding the number was hounding the number 13 car there on Tara Dalberg. Dalberg getting it a little bit squirrely there in turn number 9. You'd have to be a brave man to try and make a move down the inside of turn number 10, however. And it looks like Darren Seal though is closing. If he can get a good run through 12, he can try a big outbreaking maneuver down into turn number 1. Just getting it through my ear, however, that Van Boessel lost 3 seconds that last lap to Rens Brokerman, and a large part of that could be accounted to the fact that he is sat behind the number 65 machine of Tom Cable, but isn't being able to pass in the corners. So that is something that we will keep an eye on, as Darren Seal is still working on Tara Dalberg in the number 13 machine. This is the battle for 2nd and 3rd position in the Cadillac field. Thibaut Sandor in the number 3 car starting to lose sight now, about 2 seconds now behind the battle between these two drivers. And Marseille Mayo is starting in turn to close down that 4th place driver of Thibaut Sandor. And Marseille Mayo, of course, he had that moment down at turn number 9 about 5 laps ago now. And Mayo is trying to charge his way back, and we are now into the second half of this race, and Mayo's got all that work to do once again. So Follestad in the number 15 machine. We haven't talked about Folly too much here today. The number 15 car has been absolutely dominant, bouncing back after his mishaps at Barber Motorsports Park just last week, where he had that movement, spinning it out the final corner, I believe, down the front straightaway. Frederick Follestad has got an 8.3 second lead over Tara Dalberg. This is the Follestad who last season didn't make it past lap number 1 of this race, but it looks like he's taken all of these things and just worked it to a car that's been handling beautifully all race long. And he's doing a great job in that number 15 car. But Dalberg, Seal battle for 2nd and 3rd position. That is not going away at all. Darren Seal is just sat there patiently, and he just wants to try and find a way past that number 13 car. Darren Seal in the number 37 position, in the number 37 machine even. Looks as though, again, he's having to really work it hard in the corners just to stay close as they come up the hill. We'll have a look here as they come through turn number 3, 4, 5. Just give you an update to see where they're heading. And it looks like Seal loses a little bit as they come up the hill, which means that even they can gain a bit down the straightaway down into the carousel, not really being able to do too much. Just to let you know, Marseille Mayo, just off of our screens there, he lost himself 2 seconds. So all of that hard work that he's been charging the last couple of laps, it's been undone as he's had himself a big moment down to turn number 1, just sliding the rears of those cars. He's got Japanese writing on the side of that car, and he's decided that he wanted to do that a bit in real life as well, take on the Japanese drift driving role. But he's dropped now 2 seconds behind Thibaut Sandor, and all of that work has been redone once again. And I tell you what, while Seal and Dalberg are fighting for position, Sandor's just starting to close up a little bit. That gap now is down to 1.5 seconds between Sandor and Darren Seal, so he could still come into play in that Central Eastern Europe number 5 machine. I'm giving an update back to the V8 class momentarily, and Thomas Van Boosel coming out of pit road. Keep an eye on Rens Broekman in, and Rens Broekman is already way up the hill. Thomas Van Boosel has lost himself a good 15 seconds to Rens Broekman now, and a large portion of that was to the fact that he was stuck behind Matt Cadillac driver, the number 65 machine, for a couple of laps. No fault of the number 65 machine at all, of course. Even though you're racing for class points only, you still have a job to do on your own on the racetrack, and it just looked as though it's just bad placement. And Van Boosel just wasn't really able to get himself any advantage there. And Marseille Mayo is out of the race. Marseille Mayo in the number 9 car is now officially out of the race. I believe he had another moment later on in that same lap that we told you about, getting a quick look there, and it was actually down in turn number 8. So 2 big slides in 1 lap. He just slid the rear tyres again coming into turn number 8. Caught the change in the asphalt in the centre of the corner. Then just the car was just weaving all over the place. And then he just couldn't collect it. Just veered left into the inside retaining barrier. You see the replay on your screen there. It just looks as though he couldn't get the car settled at all. Perhaps he might have got himself a rear puncture. We've seen him just how much he's been sliding those tyres. And that number 9 car day is unfortunately done, and that is going to give Dan Seal a huge piece of respite there, knowing that Mayo's not going to really try and catch him in the battle for the championship here today. But Dalberg is still sat in the 2nd position, and Dan Seal now really does need to try and capitalise. So you saw that a couple of replays there, the second one in board from Mayo, and you just saw how hard he was trying to work the wheel. It just wasn't going his way here today. You know, dropping back on lap number 6, just scraping that barrier. And then there's 2 big moments all in 1 lap, and Mayo is seriously going to be disappointed with that one. But we said we can confirm that Rens Broekman is back to being your race leader in the V8 class. He's got himself a huge gap over Thomas Van Boosel as Duncan Morris peels off in the 2nd position. That will be now conceded to Thomas Van Boosel. Duncan Morris in the number 3 car looks as though he might come out in 3rd position. I'll tell you what, Douglas White is going very slow on pit exit here. Morris is getting very angry. He cannot leave the track until, merge onto the track until after the yellow line. And Duncan Morris there, it looks like he might have lost himself. I think he lost himself a good 2-3 seconds there, as it was Douglas Wyatt in the number 43 machine, who I don't know what he was doing, but that car, it just wasn't going. He accelerated up and then just looks as though that car slowed down. Maybe the engine cut out. But Douglas Wyatt there on the exit of pit road, that's not the sort of thing you want to be seeing here in this series. And Douglas Wyatt, it looks as though he might actually be struggling on fuel, and that might be the reason why he's going so slowly. He did miss his pit box by about 3 country miles, so he might have to come down pit road once again. But Thomas Van Boosel is back up into the 2nd position. Rens Broekman, of course, is leading, but Duncan Moraes, he looks as though he's back down into the pack now, because it looks as though it is Jacob Cooper who's resumed 3rd position with Igor Sandfield in the 5th spot. To give you an idea of where we expect Moraes to be, he looks as though he's come out behind Peter Ridley, so he's now back down into the 10th position. and just go back through your top 5 again, as we're almost half an hour now into this 40-minute race. So it's time to turn the wick up, as we've got ourselves just over 10 minutes left to go here at Watkins Glen. You are watching round number 3 of the Top Freak Racing Touring Car Championship here on Glacier TV. Frederick Follestad still dominating, but looks like he's eased off the pace a little bit. That gap was 8.5 seconds, gone down now to 7.5 seconds on the racetrack. Terry Dalberg still in the second position, with Darren Seal in third. Seal, his looks as though he's dropped off the rear of Terry Dalberg by just a couple of attempts. Terry Dalberg there, just a little bit of tyre smoke on that number 13 car, and that allowed Seal to close back up. Tibor Sandborn is still sat in the 5th position, with Stefan Coppin trying out your top 5. Adam Carl's in 6th, Tom Cable is in 7th. Then your retirement, big number of retirements here in the Caddy field. First of all, Marseille Mayo will be classified in 8th, and Terry 9th. Douglas Wyatt looks like he will be classified in the 10th position. Nico Grant 11th, and Mika Leckery will be the final position there in the 12th spot. It's Taryn Seal and Terry Dalberg, they're working their way around Igor Sandfield. Sandfield just getting way out of the way. He doesn't want to be the one that determines who stands in what position on the podium here today. And good driving there by the number 86 machine. I haven't really talked about him much here today, but he himself is doing a superlative job on the racetrack. Sat in 4th position in class. The gap between himself and Jacob Cooper is about 7-8 seconds at the moment. But Cooper really is having a good race himself in that number 27 Good Humor car. But once again, it is the Brokerman Van Boosel show. Brokerman trying to make it 15 out of 15 races. The sort of dominance you just cannot expect from even some of the biggest names of iRacing. You know, you wouldn't expect that form of win record. And Brokerman, even though he's had a little bit of troubles at some portions of this season, he has just bounced back and he is just dominating once again. Thomas Van Boosel in that number 12 machine. His fastest lap of the race, to give you an update, is a 1 minute 50.136. Now you compare that to Ren's Brokerman, a 1 minute 49.9. So, I mean, Van Boosel's fastest lap is only 2 tenths of a lap slower. And we talked about earlier on in this broadcast how, you know, he was able to stick with Brokerman for large portions of this race. It just seemed that in that sequence of pit stops, Brokerman was just able to pull away. So, just having a little bit back further through the field. I'll tell you what, it is though that V8 has got himself a lot better reliability here today. Only 2 retirements to note. Andy Goodison in the number 25 machine, Danny Bowles in the number 91 car. But Frederick Follestad now coming up to put a lap on Thomas Van Boosel. Try and go on board with Frederick Follestad as he completes his 16th lap of the race here today, looking down to the inside. And you see there, he'll go past the start-finish line. You'll see that the V8 car just got a little bit more horsepower, and this is why Follestad is going to have to make a big dive down the inside now into turn number 1. Don't get too close together, guys. Follestad there was able to use the inside line, stay on the racetrack. Follestad now will have Van Boosel following him up the hill. Van Boosel, let's not forget, is still fighting the second position, and he doesn't want Broken to have an incident ahead of him. And oh, Van Boosel just touching the wall there in the number 12 car. Don't think he's got too much damage to that right side, but he did definitely just smack that wall. You see now, he's looking down to the inside of Follestad. This is what you expect to happen, but now Follestad will have better braking into the carousel. They go too wide. Follestad round the outside will have the line into the next corner, and now Follestad will be able to get the job done there. And I have to say, I'm going to have to quickly have a look at the car of Follestad, because it does look as though it's got a little bit of a bump here there in it. But great driving by Follestad as he's come down into the toe one more time in that number 15 machine, and he has now only got one more of the V8 drivers who will essentially be putting a lap down, and that of course is Renz Brokerman in the number 84 machine. Just things have started really have settled down now. We've got ourselves not really many battles on the racetrack for the time being, and a lot of it is playing that whole cat and mouse game. You just got to stay on it. Peter Ridley and Simon Hill, they are still pretty close on the racetrack, only 2.5 seconds separating those two drivers, the Infinity Esports teammates on the number 46 and number 22 machines respectively. They are battling for what is essentially 5th and 6th position in the V8 class, so battling for the last of the top 5 fighting honours. But the gap between Simon Hill and Igor Sandfield is a full 12 seconds for the time being. So Sandfield really looks like he's got that 4th place sorted out. Taking Cooper ahead, looks like he's got that 3rd place sorted out. So the top 5 looking as though it might almost be done and dusted in the V8 class. When Lipinski has just been overtaken by Duncan Marias in the number 3 car. So Lipinski, who was sat in the 7th position, we can now drop him back into the 8th spot in the V8 class as he loses that position to the number 3 machine of Duncan Marias. Just had a look on board there with Darren Sill still trying to find his way around Tower Dalberg as they just go past the car of Andrew Streetley there in the number 41 car. Streetley really has had a tough day here today. We really do expect to see him being in better form next week because this isn't the type of performance you normally used to from Streetley. He normally is right there in at least the mid-pack as Tower Dalberg are just going around the outside of Van Boosel as we're down in Seal. And Tower Dalberg is still fighting for everything he has to keep the 2nd position in that number 13 car, and he has had one of the drives of his TFR TCC career here today because he has just been able to keep that number 37 machine of Darren Seal stuck behind him all race long since he got out into that 2nd spot, and you cannot fault the guy at all for the work he's done here today. And with 5 minutes laps to go, he's only got about 3, maybe 4 more laps to go, and really impressive driving by that number 13 car. But Darren Seal will not give up in that number 37 machine. We've seen his amount of ruthless aggression. We saw that back at Silverstone last year in his battle with Marseille and Mayo. We've seen that with his fight with Frederick Vollerstad and with Mayo in other races for the past 6-8 weeks. So Darren Seal is definitely not one who will give up until the final corner of the final lap. Tower Dalberg just got himself a little bit smoked once again into turn number 1. This allowed Darren Seal to close down a little bit as I come back down towards Carousel, and Darren Seal is having a great race but just isn't being able to get anywhere to the rear of Tower Dalberg, not close enough to even make the boldest of manoeuvres down into one of these big braking zones here today. So we are now beginning to enter the closing stages here of the Torque Freak Racing Touring Car Championship from Watkins Glen on Glacier TV. It has been another one of the fantastic races that you always see in the rolling hills of North New York. Don't forget, our next broadcast on Glacier TV will be on the 28th of August. That will be at Loudon, New Hampshire, which will be using the road course oval, North Oval layout, as we're just having a look at Peter Ridley in the number 22 machine, who really now has closed back up to the rear of Simon Hill in number 46. Looking to the outside, he might try and get a run down the inside as they come off the hairpin, and the two almost collect each other, but Peter Ridley's going to go down to the inside. This is going to be the easiest pass I've ever seen, and it's not Stephen Coppins also there, who's going to lose himself 5th spot in the Cadillac class. You just saw that in the picture, but Stephen Coppins in the number 81 machine just looks as though, I don't know what happened to him there. That car just decided to turn, right, bounce into the wall, and whether Coppins was just not paying attention enough, that number 81 car from a pretty much certain 5th position is now out of the race. I will give you confirmation as well. Peter Ridley has been able to get around Simon Hill, and in fact it's opened up already a 1 second gap in that number 22 machine. So Simon Hill really struggling here in the later stages of this race, and that is not the sort of thing that you want to be having, your tyres falling away just when all you need to do is try and keep them together. And for those of you who are wondering why we're back in 2 weeks, We are broadcasting every other race of the Talk Freak Racing Touring Car Championship this season. The next race in the TFR TCC will be at Okayama in 1 week's time, and of course, for more information on that, you can find it at talkfreakracing.com. And we had a look back at the replay there of Stefan Coppens. It just didn't look right at all. Perhaps it just was a mechanical failing on the car, something. Maybe he wasn't paying attention, but we'll try and get you an update on that once this race has concluded. Follestad in the number 15 machine, of course, is still your race leader. Terry Dalberg is certainly second position in the Cadillac class, just 7.3 seconds behind. I'd say that's a good thing. Follestad has dropped dramatically off the pace, of course, in these last couple of laps. He started this race by doing, 45 nines and low 46s. He's been doing the same thing. In fact, I take that back. Dalberg's one who's been picking up the pace these last couple of laps. Dalberg, in fact, last time by, just set his fastest lap of the race. A 1 minute 46.349 in that battle, just trying to keep down until behind him. And we've only got 3.5 minutes left to go, so that'll be close. It possibly be 3 laps left. It'll be interesting once again to see whether any drivers do make it on fuel or get very close to it. It looks like it is in fact going to be 3 more laps. Follestad is your race leader, but that means Darren Seal has only got about 3 more laps left to go. So 2.5 laps left to go, should we say. So Darren Seal on the 37 car really now has to get close and make a move. He's going to have any chance of getting that pass done on Terry Dalberg. He's been stalking him all race long, but won't take anything away from Dalberg. He's been absolutely calm and serene under pressure, and nothing has fazed him all race long. Van Boesel in the number 12 machine is still behind Rens Brokeman. In fact, that gap looking like it's just eking itself out a little bit as Brokeman once again, surprise, is leading the way in that number 84 Infinity Esports car. So only a couple of laps left to go for him. One thing that is worth noting is that while the attrition rate has been very high in the Cadillac, it has been really low in the V8 class here today. So a big well done to everyone in the V8 cars, especially for really keeping their cars clean on a track as well, where it is one of the most difficult for the V8 drivers because the long straightaways always gives them the advantage on certain portions of this racetrack, but then they are at a severe disadvantage on other parts of the Cadillac drivers. So it can be a toing and throwing game, and it can get very frustrating, especially if you're in the seat of a Cadillac driver. But everyone here today has tried to keep their cool as much as possible, and thankfully we haven't had the same incident that marred the race just 12 weeks ago. And Frederick Follestad in the number 15 machine has got himself 1.5 laps left to go in that number 15 car, coming down into the toe for the penultimate time. Relentless has been the word to describe Frederick Follestad here today. We'll keep an eye on that battle for second and third position as this car goes off the track just ahead of those drivers. That is in fact Ramo Pidsky in the number 56 machine, currently scored 1 lap down in the V8 class. His tyres 65, they're just going away in the latter stages of this race as well. But Darren Seal still trying to hunt down Terry Dalberg in the closing stages of this race. And as for Darren Seal, he's only got himself a couple more big chances. The first one is Chief Frederick Follestad coming down to take the white flag. 1 more lap left to go here at the Glen. Darren Seal has got himself perhaps 3 more passing opportunities here today. Follestad, your race leader. Dalberg second. Seal third. Tibble Sander in fourth. Adam Powell running out the top 5 in the Cadillac class. And then it's Brokeman in the number 84 machine. Thomas Van Boesel in second. Jacob Cooper third. Eagle Sandfield in fourth. Peter Ridley in the 5th spot. Adam Powell just making his way around. And very slow Andrew Streetley, who I think right now is just looking forward to Okayama next week. Frederick Follestad coming up the hill for the final time, down into the carousel. We'll go on board of him for a couple of seconds. Follestad is back after his moment last week, and Follestad has now got half a lap left to go before he is once again victorious here in the TFR TCC. So down into toe corner for Frederick Follestad for the final time. Beautiful there as he gets onto that patch of asphalt and then doesn't leave on exit just to get himself maximum drive up the car, getting too slippery underneath him. Then just this short straight run now down into turn number 8. High on the brakes, but not too high. You don't want to lock him up. You've got to get good traction through the centre of the corner here. And then turn number 9, that long, painful left-hander. This is where Marseille Mayo had his first incident early on here today, which perhaps set up his car for that damage later on. Now he made those subsequent errors. Frederick Follestad into the promotional corner for the final time. Terry Dalbo, to give you an update, he's still sat in second position, but down Seal right behind. Frederick Follestad out of the final corner. He, once again, is victorious in the Sulfate Racing Touring Car Championship. And it's time for the victory wiggles once again for Follestad as Tara Dalberg is being hounded, but it's not going to be close enough. Darren Seal will come in third. Tara Dalberg gets second position by less than 1/10 of a second there over Darren Seal. Great driving by both of those drivers. Tibor Sandor will come home in the 4th position. And now we're going to turn our attention back to the V8 drivers as it is 15 out of 15 for Rens Brokerman, who is still unbeaten in the TFR TCC. Thomas Van Boosel will come home in the 2nd position. Jacob Cooper in 3rd. Nico Sandfield in 4th. Peter Ridley in 5th. But Rens Brokerman, 15 races, 15 victories. And that guy, once again, is going to make his way to victory lane. Frederick Follestad in the number 15 car after his drama, his moments last week, makes a trip back to victory lane. We might as well call it Frederick Lane one day. But driver of the race really has to be Tara Dalberg in that 2nd position, who just drove the pants off that race car here today. And how he was able to keep that car planted perfectly is beyond me, because he really did a sterling job. You see there, the last of the cars coming past the start-finish line. We will try and get ourselves a couple of interviews as soon as we run through your final race results here on Glacier TV, but we'll be back in about 30 seconds. So after 30 minutes of 40 minutes even of forgetting to breathe, we can now run through your final race results. You see there, Thomas Van Boosel and Rens Brokerman once again playing that infamous game now of cat and mouse. Frederick Follestad is your race leader, sorry, your race victory leader, with a time of 40 minutes 53.615 seconds. Terry Dalbell comes home in the 2nd position, 8.9 seconds behind. Dan Seal less than a 10th of a second further back in the number 37 machine. Tibor Sandor in the 4th position with Adam Powell in 5th. Tom Cable in the 6th position. And then Stephen Coppins in the 81 car, the first retirement 5 laps down. We saw him have that crazy moment on the short back straightaway on the boot section of the racetrack. Marseille Mayo in 8th. Adam Terry 9th. Douglas Wyatt 10th. Nico Brandt 11th. And Nico Litcree rounding out your field. And then in the V8 class, surprise, Rens Brokerman is your race winner. Once again on the number 84 machine, Thomas Van Boosel in 2nd. Jacob Cooper in the 3rd spot. Igor Sandfield in the 4th position. Peter Ridley in 5th. Simon Hill in the 6th spot. Duncan Moraes in the 7th position. Carl McGurk in 8th. Raymond Pilsky in 9th. Andrew Streetley in 10th. Daniel Bowles 11th. And Andy Goodison rounding out your V8 field. And we're going to bring in our cameraman for this evening, Yoni Backman. Yoni, it's been a somewhat much more sedated race than the last time we were here at Watkins Glen, but still good racing. And all the way through the field. There's been some great battles here today.
Yeah, last time around we had that unfortunate incident in turn 1, which I'm sure everyone who's been watching the last season of the Touring Car Championship remembers the Frederick Follestad spinning in turn 2 and causing about 20 cars of pileup, which basically ruined the whole race, but still provided some good racing for top 3 finishers. Meanwhile, this race, Frederick did not have that misfortune in the first lap and dominated the race, but yeah, Tero Dahlberg did an outstanding job of keeping Darren Seal behind him through the whole race, and yeah, like you said, that was a just outstanding performance to watch.
And who would get your drive of the race in both classes here today?
Well, Tero Dahlberg, I would say for Cadillacs, but for the V8s, I can't think of anyone else than Brent Brockman, personally. I mean, what can you say? I mean, he just outdrove everyone by a mile.
Yeah, I mean, once again, 15 out of 15. I mean, you talk about some of the big, streaks in racing and all forms of sport, and you start thinking, when you consider Rens Broekman and that V8 car, he's been the most dominant driver in Torque Freak Racing competition history, period. There's been no drivers who've been able to get anywhere near close to him, but really, really good driving by Rens Broekman. And once again, like last week, it seems as though everyone's got shy and girly and they can't be bothered to talk to us. So for everyone who isn't paying attention, then we will be back in 2 weeks' time. This will be at New Hampshire Loudon, which is running the north section of the oval, is running also the road course, which goes kind of up over the track, and then a beautiful outfield section. It's an outfield section here at New Hampshire. And also, we're going to take a moment of your time to plug shamelessly about the Proto Ice Championship presented by Glacier TV. This will be starting on week 13 of this season. It's a $3 entry fee, which you'll get refunded if you compete in all of the qualifying sessions, at least. The races will be run each and every week. We've already got ourselves a large number of drivers signed up, and you can find more information about that on the iRacing.com private message forums, private league and hosted racing forums even. And we talked about our driver of the race. Mr. Driver of the race, Mr. Tero Dahlberg, you came home second. Congratulations.
Thanks. Driver of the race. Okay, I'll take that.
And you had yourself a tremendous battle with Darren Seal pretty much all race long. And when you started that race in the 4th spot, you managed to get up to second in that mess that's happening around Marseille and Mayo and everything involving around that and lap number 6. And then you just able to keep Darren Seal behind you. But how difficult was it to do so?
Well, it wasn't easy. I usually prefer to be the chaser. So it's a bit difficult to be in the lead and try to keep my pace up. I think I did quite well this time.
But I mean, this track, we saw the rear tires lighting up in your car quite a few times into turn 1, turn 5, a little bit into turn 6. I mean, was that car a handful to drive, or was it, just the fact you were just pushing it a little bit too hard?
Well, that sounds a bit surprising. I mean, it wasn't too bad. I think I got a bit loose a few times, but it wasn't really that bad to drive.
And next week we're going to Japan, Okayama, which last season was, to be fair, not the most exciting race in history, but it's still a very tough track and one of those ones that is very technical as well. Kind of very sloppy starting, but with some flowy bits in the middle. You're looking forward to that next week, and of course the next time we're on air at Loudon, New Hampshire in a fortnight's time.
Yeah, I like Okayama. It's one of those tracks that I kind of like. I like more than Watkins Glen actually, but we'll see how it goes. And I don't know, the roll will be interesting.
Well, congratulations on your second place finish. Might as well bring your Team North and teammate involved. Mr.
Thanks.
Frederick Follestad, or as I've affectionately renamed you, Folly, congratulations. Race victory once again.
Yeah, thanks. That was, well, it wasn't the most fun I've had, but I really wanted it after last week.
And after Barber last week, I'm guessing, the easiest way to bounce back is getting to victory lane. Also, when you consider what happened about 13 weeks ago at the same track. We had to mention it at some point.
Yeah, it's been a lot of banter about that. So, but I think that's fun because I totally deserve it. That's probably my largest mistake ever.
Oh, it's okay. One day I'll tell you a story about Las Vegas and a pole position that went horribly wrong, and all of a sudden you'll feel fine. But this race, it seemed that, in qualifying, you were dominant, 9 tenths of a second faster than anyone else. In the race, it seemed that you weren't as fast, time-wise compared to everyone else. You're only, 3-4 tenths faster, but you're able to just be consistent all race long. Was it the case that you knew that you were going to try and be out front and you tuned yourself up deliberately to work for that? Or was it just pure luck and witchcraft?
No, I was going as fast as I could, but I set the car up to, in qualifying, it just needs to work on the edge. But in the race, I had a pretty safe setup because I wanted to be relaxed. I find that's very important at Watkins Glen for some reason. So yeah, I was going as fast as I could, but I lost a lot of time when I think I lost 3 seconds or something in the first traffic. But yeah, I noticed that Tiro and Darren, they were matching me at the end there.
Yeah, Terran and Darren had just a huge scrap all race. In fact, they were a little bit faster at the end of the race, but I'm not sure whether or not he decided to back off or whether the tyres, I don't know. I'll let you explain that bit.
No, I wasn't backing off. I think maybe I've seen this several times. Seem to have the speed advantage on the first 2 laps. So I think maybe I'm pushing the tires more or something.
Okay. And final thing about this track before we put it back to bed once again, the V8 drivers. It's one of those unique experiences here where, you can pass them, for example, down into turn number 1, but then all the way up the hill, they can stay with you and then pass you back again down the back straightaway. Is that one of the things you have to take into account at a track like this when you consider momentum? I can't remember who it was. I think it was Van Boesel who, is right on your rear end all the way through about 3 laps left to go. Do you have to, have a different mindset? Do you have to be more careful, or is it just, just go ahead and carry on racing?
No, I just go as fast as I can and deal with situations when they arise. And it's really good with drivers like, all the drivers in TFR really, but drivers like Thomas, you can trust that he's not going to do something stupid. So in that environment, you kind of drive a little bit more relaxed in those situations than I would in ordinary iRacing races.
10-4. Go.
Yeah, I have to agree, and just want to say that the TFR guys are really, really good and know what they're doing, and it's much easier to go fast amongst the V8s when you know that the guys aren't going to do anything unexpected.
0!
So,
1, 2.
Once again.
And Toby Bushnell, you have some love. So, yeah, well done to everyone at TFR for continuing the TFR TCC to its successes. And Frederick, next time we're seeing you is in 2 weeks' time at Loudon for the crazy oval road outfield combination. But next week you're at Okayama, which, if you got bored here today, you might be a little bit more bored next week because that track always bores the head out of me. But you looking forward to that?
No, I'm dropping that week because I absolutely hate that track. I think it's horrible. So drop week.
And then what about Loudon with its 2 7th grade degrees of banking and the outfield?
Is that New Hampshire?
That is, yes.
Oh, I love that. I'm definitely gonna do that.
So, congratulations on your race victory. I say, next time we are on air is in 2 weeks' time at New Hampshire Motor Speedway's Road Outfield North Loop track. At some point, there'll be a very detailed explanation into the banking at New Hampshire, because it's something that no one can ever understand. So that'll be same time, same place in 2 weeks' time. Don't forget, of course, the Proto Ice Championship presented by Glacier TV. Information on that, go to iracing.com. The racing this week seems to have died off a little bit. We've had ourselves a great couple of months of racing. There's always that kind of mid-summer lull when everyone goes on holiday. The ISOWC will be back this Sunday at Atlanta Motor Speedway for the Atlanta 300. Keep your eye on that. And of course, for all of the information on the World Tour and the Grand Am Premier Series, which we are continuing to broadcast all year long, go to iracing.com or glaciertv.com. For myself, from Yoni Backman and everyone here at TFR, ta-ra!
Here they come to the start-finish line again.